Hey guys, my name is Katarina Berry. Tonight is the night of Halloween. In fact, I'm recording this on the day of Halloween. And if you were to ask me, Katarina, do you have a spooky Halloween story for us? I would say yes. So today I will be talking about my experience, which is very, in my opinion, psychic, and also I've never had anything like this really ever happen in my life before. So it stands out from all the rest of the psychic experiences I've ever had. And it's also very interesting because I think it has to do with the past. It has to do with perhaps my previous lifetime. And it's just very interesting. So I will be talking about the Bull Street Asylum. Now, this is a historic space where previously, years ago, there was a psychiatric treatment facility. There was an asylum and in South Carolina, and people that had mental disorders, people that were unable to live within a society and function, were sent there, and they stayed there, and they lived there, and they were treated there. And previously, I have found some videos on people kind of breaking in to this asylum and walking around and seeing very interesting different writings on the wall, and it looked really spooky, and someone heard like noises, and someone thought that it was haunted. And why wouldn't it be haunted? There were mentally disturbed people that lived there and that had no way of getting out, and maybe spent most of their lives there. So I was never really particularly fascinated by that place, but I do live right next to it. Not right next to it, but you know, within like 5 minutes of driving. It stands out, let me put it this way. It also is not a place where you can like walk in. It's not legal, it's a private property. It's all kind of protected by this fence, and it says do not enter, and it says, you know, you will be like fined and arrested if you do. So obviously I've never had any plans on going in there, even though it sounds fascinating, but that's just not what I would do. So anyway, long story short, in 2018, something strange happened on February 20th, 2018. Something strange happened to me. All of a sudden, I was sitting at my place, which, as I mentioned, is not far from the Bull Street Asylum, or what used to be Bull Street Asylum. And without really knowing much about that place, except that it's kind of spooky, I suddenly had this vision of me living there. And not in the capacity of a patient, as you might suspect, but in the capacity of a person who was either a doctor or a scientist. And it was so vivid. It was like a daydream, because I definitely was not asleep, but I was doing work, doing whatever. And I remember it was happening in my house, and I remember all of a sudden this kind of like memory overcame me. It felt like memory. It felt so real. It was so real. And that doesn't really happen to me that often. Like, it was very visual. It was like I was there. It was like I was remembering something. Not a dream, but a real memory. And I was kind of like in it for a little while, a few minutes at least, and I was in that place, in that what used to be the asylum. And the memory, believe it or not, was very strange. It was happy. It was not dark. It was full of fascination. It's like I'm an empath, and this is what most of this channel is dedicated to. So I'm very sensitive to people's energies. And in that memory / daydream / vision, I was also an empath, and a lot of people around me, a lot of patients, were empaths as well. I could feel that some of them had special abilities, some of them had what you would call psychic talents, psychic abilities. And as a scientist or this doctor person, I'm not sure, I wasn't really treating some of them. I was working with some of them to develop whatever kind of research into psychic abilities. And it was so strange because I remembered where I lived, and it was kind of like it was on the campus, but it was a little, it wasn't in the main facility, and it was very simple, and it was kind of like a little cabin, and I stayed there, I lived there. I spent my time there. Maybe I was there temporarily, who knows, in residence, whatever. But I had my stuff there, like my books, my journals, my research tools. And I felt very good. I felt very hopeful in that vision. I felt like I was doing meaningful work, and I felt like I was helping kind of shine light on these people's abilities that weren't a disease or disorder. They were something that was just part of who they are. And I was kind of developing the study of what it meant for them, and how it set them apart, and how it wasn't a detriment, and that if they could control this, they could maybe re-emerge into the society. But of course there were also mentally ill patients there that were that weren't part of this research that I was conducting. It was so realistic. It came out of nowhere. It was not Halloween. It was like February 20th 2018. I'm going to show you guys a message that I sent to my friend on February 20th. I also wrote a journal entry that day. I remember. Now, you guys, I have so many journals that I finished since that time, and it's really hard for me to remember in which one specifically and on which page this would be. So I decided to just use the screenshots of these messages as evidence of what and how things happened. So, having had this vision of where I was a scientist at the Bull Street Asylum, doing some kind of parapsychology, psychic, whatever research, and working with these empaths and people with supernatural abilities. And it was, like I said, a happy vision. I was like geeking out. I was like I was a female, and I was like super hopeful and excited about this work, super engaged in it, and I was enjoying what I was doing. So it was, like I said, a happy memory, even though this asylum was, I'm sure, a bad place for a lot of people because they couldn't really leave. And so anyway, so that was the 20th. On the 22nd, something else happened, which is where this whole video is going, which is like the whole point of the story. Having made that journal entry, having sent that message to my friend Aretha, I was at a coffee shop. That's just like 2 days later, and I was just doing my thing. I was journaling, I don't know, maybe even reading cards. I didn't have another vision, but something interesting happened. All of a sudden, I had this, another, extrasensory experience. And it wasn't that I heard a voice externally. It was that I heard this kind of voice internally. It wasn't really even a voice. It was just very kind of like alert type of feeling, like where I was like, what is, like it was like, and then I felt now, and I saw the Bull Street Asylum, like outline of that place. And it was like, now, go there right now, go there now. And it was like, what? It was like 8 p.m., it was raining, and it was dark, and because it was February, so the days were shorter. It wasn't like sunset, it was like dark, and it was pretty chilly, and I was like, huh? And I've never I follow my intuition to where, like, when I'm like trying to choose a coffee shop to go to, or trying to pick, one activity over another for a certain, spot of time that I have. And I have an intuitive feeling sometimes, and I'll trust it and I'll do as I feel intuitively. However, I've never had an intuitive feeling tell me to go to a freaking abandoned asylum at 8 p.m. at night when it's dark and cold and raining. And why? Like, also, like, to do what? To break in? I'm not breaking in. I was like, what? But for some reason, because that vision that I had 2 days prior, and it was so like happy and so interesting, like it was so fascinating because it felt like a memory and it felt like it was me. And I'm so connected to Columbia, South Carolina. I've always felt like I know this place very well, like it's home to me, like I've been here before. So, who knows, maybe it was a past life. But anyway, I was like, what, why am I supposed to go there now? But for some reason, you guys, I decided to freaking follow it. I decided to listen to that feeling, that inner voice. And I decided to go to the Bull Street Asylum at 8 p.m. at night in February 2018 on the 22nd, 2 days after I had that vision. Okay, so I drove there. I didn't tell anyone. I just drove there by myself. And there was nobody there, like 0 people. It was dark, there were like bad street lights. Now, I went there today, again, to just capture some footage for you guys during the daytime so you can see what this asylum looks like, okay? So, you know, I'm there, I arrive, it's dark, I start walking in, and not inside because you can't get through, it's all like barred, and you can't get into the gate either because it says don't enter, this area is under surveillance. So I didn't really do much. I walked around, I went to the left side, and then there was, I mean, it was pretty dark, but I wasn't really looking for any, I didn't know what to look for. Okay, so I wasn't like really there for, I don't know why I was there even, so I was just there. I just followed the calling to go there. So then I kind of like walked up the stairs to where I could without like breaking in, and just like stood there, looked around, looked at the moon. It was, I think, like close to the full moon or something. Anyway, I could see the moon very bright. I think it might have been a full moon. Who knows? There was the moon, there was this abandoned asylum with broken out windows, all like kind of falling apart. I'm there all by myself in the middle of the night, okay? So I'm like, okay, if there's a ghost that wants to talk to me or something, like, I'm here, so might as well just, you know, tell me whatever it is that you want to tell me. Like, I want to get out of here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't want to get arrested. So I sat on the steps, like, looking for ghosts. No ghosts. I don't really see ghosts. I do have, like, visions, as you can tell sometimes, but that's never been my thing. But anyway, I was like, if there's a spirit, if there's something that wants to communicate with me, like if it's strong enough to where I had to come here, okay, just do it, and then I'll go. Nobody, nothing, no sounds. It's like the quietest place ever. And I wasn't really feeling spooky. I wasn't really feeling afraid. It wasn't like creepy. There wasn't, some places you do have like bad energy, you know, you feel like that weird, strange presence, like, and it's like disconcerting. But there was none of that. It was like completely just quiet, peaceful even, like this moon, and I was like, I don't know, my main thing was I didn't want to get arrested. I didn't want to get in trouble, like, you know, it was just strange. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, if there's nothing here, I'm gonna go home now. So I decided to just like see if anything, like give it another few seconds, and all of a sudden I get another kind of like strong urge, and it's not like, again, the sound or voice, it's like I get this message like, go to the left of the entrance, go to the left gate. And I'm like, I was just there, there's nothing there. So I was like, okay, well, I'll check it out anyway. And I go there, and you guys, that's the craziest thing, okay? I go to that gate, there was nothing there, or at least I didn't see anything. And so at this time I turned on the flashlight, that might have been the problem, but as I approached that other gate, all of a sudden, on the ground, I see a binder full of stuff. Okay, so yeah, I see this thing on the ground, and you can see like a few splashes on it, but other than that, it just rained. As I started the story, it was raining, it was February, it was raining for several days. It's been raining so hard that it was like some areas got flooded. And this thing was laying on the ground. Yes, it has a few splashes of dirt on it, but it was not wet. The pages were not wet. Otherwise they would have fallen apart, they're pretty old. Okay, so like the whole thing was like someone just dropped it there. Who? What? Why? Like, why would someone pick up an old HR type file, which it says annual plans and annual summaries, employee training records? That's like an HR binder. Why would someone drop that in the middle of, like, why? Where? I mean, it's obviously coming from inside of this giant abandoned, like, main structure of the asylum complex building, right? Okay, so it's like part of the records, so it would be coming from inside, because there's a lot of stuff like that inside, I'm sure. but like, why would why wasn't it wet? So I picked it up because I was like, well, that must be the reason I'm here. It was like right there. I didn't have to walk in through the gate. I didn't have to break in. It was just right there, not wet, just waiting for me. Why? I don't know. So I went home. I was so excited. I messaged my friend Doritha, whom I messaged in the first place. And I was like, listen, I just went to the asylum. Actually, we met that day, like before all of that happened. I was like, I just went to the asylum. I got this crazy binder. The ghosts are telling me to, like, there's like some announcement to how to like deal with anger and like stress, whatever. And I guess I was feeling a little stressed out. I was like, even the ghosts are suggesting that I deal with stress. And like I sent her, but I was so beyond excited. I was like, where would I ever, like, what is this? Like, how would I ever even tell this story? Like, this is so strange. I had this memory from time way past. I was like wearing a long dress in that memory, doing some, like, how many women were scientists studying psychic abilities? I mean, is that even real? I don't know. Maybe it's like some parallel reality. Why? I don't know. Why I had that vision, I still don't know. But it was a happy kind of like memory type. And then 2 days later, I get this call to go to that place at 8 p.m. at night. And it was like, now, go there now. And then I arrive and I spend some time there. And then I walk to where I feel that I should walk by this, again, strange calling. And there is a binder there that's not wet after 4 days of rain with non-stop. Where did it come from? So anyway, you guys, what I'm gonna do for the rest of this video is I'm just gonna play some music for you, and I'm just gonna flip through the pages of this binder so you can enjoy the weirdness of this strange story with me. And happy Halloween. So yeah, I finally get to tell this crazy scenario that happened like almost 2 years ago. No, yes, almost 2 years ago. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you like my videos, please subscribe. I am kind of starting out, so I would really, really appreciate it. And on that note, let's get into the binder and check it out. So we are getting started with the binder here. And of course it says annual plans and annual summaries, employee training record, and past evaluations. There are some evaluation reports there. Okay, see this? 1984. How near compliance will we be by February 1984? And this is all happening in February, to me, in February of 2018. So it's been a while, obviously, since these records were created. In-service training plan. There's a lot of these, like different training plans. And I remember I went through this binder as soon as I got home, and I kind of like made sure that it was all, because some things were like kind of falling apart out of it, like falling out of it. So I made sure everything was like had a place or was like tucked in there. Of course, the metal rings are like kind of not rotten, but they're covered with whatever that's called, and so they're not really good. So they're like really tearing the paper off if you pull too hard. But South Carolina State Hospital Food Service Division, in-service education plan, 1982 through 1983. All this stuff. Okay, so we go there. And then you see like these pages are like kind of really falling apart, but I'll take a few minutes to put it all back together once we finish with the video so that it can stay in a good condition. Of course, I keep this at my house because I was obviously meant to have it for whatever reason. Now maybe this was like my previous lifetime, and maybe it's just, you know, I might have passed away before I was born again in 1993. Who knows? But I don't think so. Anyway, this seems very strange. So there's a lot of these like HR type documents here. 1983 to 1984. So yeah, very like fire and safety, quality assurance, risk management, like very HR type materials. So there's a lot of these scores and ratings, and then training plans. Individual training assessment. All these credits, like continuing education that they needed to do. Then there's this, so these are not attached, these are not part of the binder, but they were like enclosed inside as if someone like put them together or left them together. But how did the binder end up outside? I still don't get it. So this is like an old magazine about mental health. I'm not sure if it was produced by the asylum or not. But this was published, let's see if there's a date. I don't know if there's a date. Prior to 1895 and 1820, okay, yeah, so it's like 1977 to 78. Oh my goodness, that's even older. So then there was this like bunch of files, American Red Cross, Bernardine Cobb, 1989, and then coping with sick leave use. So this, I found these to be quite interesting. It had these little, like see-through plastic sheets. And so I believe this was like it talks about what to do and what not to do when someone has a fit at the mental asylum. Don't show fear, don't frighten by suddenly invading an individual's physical space. Security guards threaten, lie in order to manipulate. That's all not to do. So you see who's an ally. Yeah, so these were like pretty interesting. And then there were a few of these other materials, and a few of these other like things, like plasticky things, each with its own cover and like physical activity. Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of them. So these were all quite interesting. Let's see, myths. Patients are responsible. Patients are more liable than others to hurt themselves. Patients are all prone to act violently. So these are all myths. And then there's like typical types of staff reactions or responses to aggression, violence, fear of becoming involved and getting hurt, lack of confidence. So you guys can kind of get an idea of what what type of materials these are. These seem to be like training materials for the staff of this asylum. Incidents, Ontario, Canada from 1976. And then this was like a chart that was hand drawn. So yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff there. And then a few more. Okay. Professional growth and development plan. So, and then the most important, interesting stuff was this note. Some drugs, I think. And this was just hilarious. Rodent control training. When Tuesday, December 6th, your choice of three sessions, 10 a.m., 1:30 p.m., 4 p.m. Where? Sesh Babcock building, which is the building by which I found this. Second floor, front conference room. Who are expert speaker in vector control consultant, E.C. Nelson of the District Health Services Environmental Sanitation Division, Richland County Health Department. Register calling 88981. Why? Because rodents are trying to move indoors since the weather is turning cold, and because everyone's cooperation is needed to control this problem at SCSH. Feed me and I'm yours, look at that. Until then, remember, keep food stored in glass jars with screw-on lids or in metal containers with tight-fitting lids. This means sweat. Okay, so that's that. And then there's this. Memorandum. More evaluation reports, annual evaluation, section and conclusion. So that's pretty much it. There's a lot of these documents here, and that's what was in the binder. And I've been keeping it and at my house, and it does not. I haven't seen any ghosts associated with it. And I really think that I'm supposed to be there and pick it up for whatever reason, even if it's only to make this video today. So it's been 2 years, about 2 years since I've looked through it. And here you guys are. I hope this was interesting for you, and I hope you've really enjoyed this, because it is kind of a spooky Halloween story, and I've never told this before. So there you go.